of the Albany Unified School District Board of Education, 6 o'clock. Can we get a roll call, please?
Student Board Member Shepard is absent tonight. Student Board Member Deodar.
Here.
Trustee Inglis.
Here.
Trustee Khan.
Here.
Trustee Davidson.
Here.
Vice President Mahoney.
Here.
President Hopwood.
Here.
Superintendent Stone.
Here.
And now we will move to item 3, the reading of the AUSD mission and vision statement.
The mission of Albany Unified School District is to provide excellent public education that empowers all to achieve their fullest potential as productive citizens. AUSD is committed to creating comprehensive learning opportunities in a safe, supportive, and collaborative environment, addressing the individual needs of each student. Meeting norms. Maintain a focus on what is best for our students. Ensure a safe environment for all views to be expressed, treating each other, the staff, and the public respectfully. Endeavor to find common solutions to issues through collaboration without sacrificing one's beliefs in what is best for our students. Make a commitment to effective deliberation, each one listening with an open mind while others are allowed to express their own points of view, even if one disagrees.
Thank you. And now we will have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice President Mahoney. Thank you. Sorry, I got those back to front. Right, so now we are at item 4, which is approval of the agenda. Anybody have anything to pull or?
I move to approve as is.
Second.
All in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the agenda passes unanimously, thank you. And we are now moving on to item 5, which is recognition. And it's our proclamation recognizing April as Arab American Heritage Month. And Trustee Khan, oh, I'm so sorry. Or someone else, can anybody, or Student Board Member Deodar.
You gonna do it?
If that's okay.
Great, I'm happy to help.
Thank you. We had a backup. Thank you.
I can just. Proclamation number 2024-2506, recognizing April as Arab American Heritage Month. Whereas the United States is home to an estimated 3.7 million Arab Americans, with the majority native-born and a citizenry of 82%. And whereas Arab Americans live throughout the U.S., with California having the largest population and 1/3 living in the greater Los Angeles, Detroit, and New York areas. And whereas the majority of Arab Americans can trace their ancestry to one of the world's 22 Arab nations, from northern Africa through Western Asia, including Algeria, Bahrain, the Comoros Islands, Djibouti, Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Libya, Morocco, Mauritania, Oman, Palestine, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, Tunisia, the United Arab Emirates, Lebanon, and Yemen, yet share a common cultural and linguistic heritage in all their diversity. And whereas Arabic is currently the fastest growing language in the U.S., and whereas approximately 25% of Arab Americans practice Islam, and an estimated 63% are Christian, and whereas upon immigrating, Arab Americans brought with them their resilience, culture, family values, strong work ethic, and a dedication to education. And whereas 46% of Arab Americans have a 4-year college degree, 19% have a postgraduate degree, and whereas Arab Americans have long made contributions to American society in such areas as science, foreign policy, and international development, technology, civic engagement, and the arts, with examples as writer and poet Khalil Gibran, Danny Thomas, entertainer and founder of St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, geologist Farouk Elbaz, poet and physician Fadi Judah, former Congresswoman and Secretary of Health and Human Services, Anan Shalala, and the 2 first Muslim Congresswomen, Ihan Omar, a Somali refugee, and Rashida Tlaib, the first Palestinian American woman to serve. And whereas there's a lack of accurate data on the Arab American community due to their clarification as white, which has resulted in being underrepresented and undercounted in areas of health, education, employment, and housing. And whereas the history of Arab Americans in the United States remains neglected as they are harmed by misconceptions, bigotry, and anti-Arab hate and racial profiling and civic right abuses. And whereas there's a need for education, awareness, and policies that are all culturally competent in describing or addressing the impacts of being Arab American in all aspects of American society. Therefore, be it resolved that the Albany Unified School District's Board of Trustees proclaims the month of National Arab American Heritage Month and aspires that this proclamation will spur meaningful actions throughout the district for a better present day and keep AUSD on the path for a more equitable future. District administrators, teachers, and staff will commemorate this occasion with appropriate instructional activities.
Thank you so much. And we're now moving on to student board member reports. And obviously, student board member Shepherd is not here, so it's just student board member Deodar. Again, thank you.
There's no student board member report today, but I promise there's big things on the way.
Thank you. And now we are at item 7, public comment for matters not on the agenda. Does anyone here want to make a public comment? Or anyone in our virtual audience should raise your hand. And I am seeing none. So we are now moving on to approval of the consent calendar. Anybody have any comments or questions about the consent calendar, either on the board or in public? Nope, not seeing any. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent calendar as is.
I second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So the consent calendar is approved unanimously. And now we are at item 9, staff reports. So we have our superintendent and executive cabinet team. Item 9A, an implementation update on district initiatives, multi-tiered systems of support, universal design for learning, and culturally responsive practices. We have Director Sinclair here.
My screen ready? Okay. Good evening, Board Trustees, Superintendent Stone. I'm here tonight. I know it says a lot of names on our slide, but I am going to be presenting this. Superintendent Stone and I will. I'm here to update you on the implementation of MTSS. I should say them out, multi-tiered systems of support, or MTSS, universal design for learning, or UDL, culturally responsive practices, or CRP. What I'm going to do tonight is start off with an overview of each of them, just to remember, and also to get a common agreement and understanding on what they are, and then move into a little bit about what we've been doing over these past couple of years. So MTSS, it's very important to remember that MTSS is the umbrella. So underneath that umbrella are all our other initiatives and practices. They align, MTSS, it's data informed, it's tiered, and it's a comprehensive framework, and it aligns academic, behavioral, social, emotional learning in a fully integrated system for the benefit of all students, and that's a really important piece. How do we give access to our education for all students? The majority of the students, the premise is that a majority of our students will respond to Tier 1 instruction, and then there will be a group of students who don't. So then we need to use data to identify those students and then provide support for students and really make sure that we're targeting and focusing on the right area and that we are also giving the right intensity of intervention and also rechecking to make sure that it's working. It's a really important piece to this. MTSS is research-based. It supports high-quality standards, culturally responsive practices, and this is back to the, or culturally, responsive practices. This is back to the umbrella piece, universal design for learning. They're all under that umbrella. Slide. Okay, so I don't expect you to be able to read this graphic necessarily, but it's, we put it in here because it's a really good representation of It's blank. You can read it, yeah. Oh, it's blank?
We really can't read it.
Needs to load.
I mean, it was showing up like when I pulled it up on my computer. It shows up when you do it individually.
It took a while to load on
Yeah.
mine as well. Maybe it's just the
I can
internet.
share it
Taking a
with
minute.
you.
Okay, I have it.
Okay.
It's fine.
Do you want me to just keep going?
Technology.
There we go. Okay, so in order to have an effective MTSS framework system, it's important to have a coordination of services team. And that's a collaborative team of staff. It includes teachers, principals, any kind of support staff, math, reading, intervention, sometimes occupational therapists, wellness coordinator, counselors, et cetera. And that team meets together to really hone in, using data to hone in on students who need that extra attention. And they're also just ensuring that the overall systems support and work with each other. And the important piece to this is to know that cost is data driven, and it includes academics like FastBridge, CASP, and other formative assessments, diagnostics assessments, progress monitoring if that's going on, which it should be, behavior, referrals, suspensions, absenteeism. We look at the whole child, and that's where we work as a team and make decisions around that. And then also continually check in about that group of students. So what that graphic shows you is sort of the system for it. The assumption is that in that purple area at the classroom level, the teacher has done as many things as possible and collected as much data as possible before coming to costs. And so if it gets to the point where the teacher has done all this, has kept the data, and says, I need to come to you for support. So then the teacher will come to the cost team, and that team will now work together to come up with strategies and possibly interventions, or it could be things like check in, check out, or behavioral or academic. And then what happens then is you go back in a cycle of continuous improvement, right? You try some strategies, you come back, you look at the data, you make some new decisions. And then the next step would be maybe they want to call in a student success team, and that's going to be my next slide, so I'll go to that slide. Go ahead. So a student success team is a problem-solving team, and it includes the parent. That's where it's different than costs. So the parent is involved in this. The cost team or the team is presenting all the data on the students. Again, we like to look at long-term data when we do SSTs, and then problem solve with families to figure out what the best steps are moving forward. And a lot of times it will involve the parent being proactive in this, yeah. And so the good thing about the SST and this whole process is that the idea is that we are trying everything we can before students are referred to assessment for an IEP. And so that's really the whole point behind this is not to over refer students for special ed. And so this process, if done fully, can really abate a lot of that. The other idea around an SST is there's an entrance ramp and an exit ramp. Like students can come in and out of that all day, all year. And the other thing about SSTs is that it's really important that when you hold an SST, you make an arrangement or a date for a follow-up, and you come back in and check on how it's working. Slide.
Yeah, our internet is really,
Uh-oh.
it's too warm for the internet.
Got it. Back and forth. Okay, Universal Design for Learning, UDL. It's a teaching approach, so that would fall under our umbrella as well. It works to accommodate the needs and abilities of all learners and eliminates unnecessary hurdles in the process. So there's the UDL guidelines, and those help educators address the diversity in learning in the three main categories of UDL, which are engagement, or the why of learning, getting students to buy in, and then the representation, or the what of learning. What does it look like for a student? Is it accessible? Is it scaffolded, et cetera? And then the how of learning. How do we know when a student learned, right? That's our big question. And so if a student is just told every time that they have to write a paper on what they learned, there's many students who won't be able to access that. So the idea is to give multiple forms of students being able to represent their learning. Slide. And then culturally responsive practices, of course, that centers around the knowledge of traditionally marginalized communities, connecting students' cultures, languages, and life experiences with what they learn in school. It helps all students, and in particular students of color, feel safe and connected in the educational setting, provides access to regular curriculum and higher level academic skills. High expectations are held for all students. And then the goal is to create lifelong thinkers, critical thinkers and lifelong learners. And I mean, just overall, it's the belief that all students can learn, no matter the situation with them: race, ethnicity, English proficiency, income level, family supports, past academic behavior, and I mean, past academic performance and their behavior, taking all of that out of the equation and still really targeting the students' needs. Slide.
We're having difficulty with these loading. The last one didn't load at all, so just want to hang on. It was very clear, though, but I just want to hang on for a second to see. Oh, here we go. That was the last one. Okay.
Nothing fancy to see there. Okay, the next slide. Okay, so what have we done? In about 22, 23, these dates aren't precise because it happened throughout these times. But first we rolled out the initiatives. So we went around and sort of did a roadshow of an overview of what are the initiatives. And then that was, the main point of that was so that we all had a common understanding and language around it. We did that with each school site. And then I think we did it twice actually, where Jen did it with us in our TSA, and we did that at a kickoff at a before school started. And then we did culturally responsive practices, PD, with an outside facilitator, Pamela Harrison Small, and that was at middle and high school, and she did about 1.5 years of that, of sessions with our staff. And then we, our elementary admin did some work with Joe Truss. It was geared towards administrators. And then we developed some community resources where we recorded videos and we put them on our website so that the community can become aware of our initiatives. And then we next created a working group and we did a retreat. So we had teachers, staff, and administrators all together in a room for a couple days, and we brainstormed how we could roll this out to teachers and actually implement what we're talking about. There we go. Okay, and then we developed a UDL protocol, which basically came out of that retreat. So the UDL protocol was a way for teachers to take a lesson plan and really examine it, and it gave all kinds of resources for them. And the idea was that they work in teams, they plan their lessons, they incorporate all these strategies, and then they go back and teach, and then they come back and they reflect. And we were able to roll that out at every site. We went around and did that. And at that point, it was sort of a, okay, now it's up to you to do, right? Because district staff cannot do all these initiatives. So we felt like we armed them for this, and they're ready to go. And we saw some great things happening at sites that I just want to highlight. Our high school did a student panel, and that was a really good one. And the panel was able to, they were all up in front of the whole staff, and they told them all the UDL strategies or other strategies that really worked for them in the classroom. It was a pretty amazing session. And then also the high school and the middle school did some rounds where teachers went and observed each other using the UDL strategy, and then gave each other feedback, which was pretty amazing as well. And then at our elementary sites, we had the teachers doing rounds of implementing strategies, coming back, reflecting, going out again. Okay, and then I'm just going to say lastly, this is my last part, but these initiatives, so what's next, right? These initiatives fit very well into what the principals attended an Unbound Ed conference, and there's something there called GLEAM, and that they learned about, and they were telling me all about it. And GLEAM is grade level engaging, affirming, and meaningful instruction, and that is perfect tie-in to MTSS and Tier 1. And the next slide. Sorry, not really getting anywhere.
We're having some technical difficulties here tonight.
I received, excuse me, sorry, Superintendent Stone. They're telling us to try a different Wi-Fi network.
Okay.
If we
I
can.
just used my personal
It's-
hotspot. I think we'll be okay.
Okay.
I
The
think.
different. Okay, I'll pass it along the Wi-Fi network.
It doesn't seem that.
Yeah, I think it's just too hot for internet. Doesn't like warm weather here in Albany.
I'm seeing AUSD as an option. AUSD home.
She's running it.
Yeah.
Oh, is it coming down? Yeah, it's because I think AUSD is Sarah's hotspot. She's running.
Is it the guest?
Wi-Fi network. Public.
She's mentally tired right
Is
now.
that not going out? No, I mean, I'm having no problem.
Some of us got off of it. You're welcome. Yeah. I'm just gonna sit over here and wait, and I can close my computer.
We good? Okay. Are you, this is your next part.
I think I'm. There's this. I think there's a slide before that. No? Is that the next slide, Ken? That's the slide? Okay.
Yeah, we're on 8.
I apologize, everyone. Okay.
We used to do this.
Might be the better way to go about it.
All right, I think we're ready again. I apologize for the mix-ups with our internet and all of the different technical difficulties. So, thank you, Director Sinclair. As you started to mention, recently I traveled to a conference with our principals, and we, the Unbound Ed Leadership Institute, and we talked about what Director Sinclair spoke about, GLEAM, which basically is all the best practices of what actually impacts learning in the classroom. That things need to be grade level, they need to be engaging, they need to be affirming, and they need to be meaningful. And so what's really great about GLEAM and MTSS, UDL, and CRP is that it's the same thing. In education, we like to do what I call alphabet soup. There's always going to be another acronym for something. The reality is there's just some basic best practices that if we do them well and we continue to do them well, we will see the impact on our students at all levels. So going back to the MTSS framework at a tier 1 level, meaning first instruction, best instruction, that's where most of our students will access their learning. If they need more support, then we go to a tier 2 level and we try some things. Again, we might do a double dose of something similar, or we might do something different because the way that it was maybe taught or the structure wasn't working the first time. That's where UDL really makes a lot of sense, because in a universal design for learning environment at a tier 1 level, students are able to access the learning in different ways. At a tier 2 level, you're trying new and different strategies, maybe that didn't work the first time, something new. And all of this should be under culturally responsive practices, or what I like to call culturally affirming practices. So thinking about, are we affirming who students are, no matter what their ability, gender, sexual orientation, race, and other identifying factors. And so when things go well at a tier 1 and a tier 2 level, we usually don't need to support students at a tier 3 level unless there is some other learning difficulty. And so that's where we'll be talking to you soon about the new screener that we're going to be bringing. I think actually Director Sinclair started to talk about it recently. We want to make sure that we're catching our students early if there might be any learning difficulties. And so going back to that coordination of services framework, looking at data, looking at information about students is so important. But it's all under this same umbrella. So when we start to talk about the alphabet soup, the reality is I just call it the magic of the classroom, the magic of what happens, what learning looks like. So when people say, what is happening with MTSS, UDL, and CRP, what I say is that's what is happening in classrooms every day. Now, can we give more support to teachers to maybe learn more practices under Universal Design for Learning? Absolutely. Do we need to continue to go back and reaffirm and really understand culturally affirming practices? Absolutely. But really best practice is two things, and I'll be talking about this also in my superintendent report. But what we need to really do is build this idea of collective efficacy, that we together cause learning and that we together can figure out what we need to do for our students. And the other piece that's really important is coherence. So the more coherent we are in our practices, not that we want everything lockstep, we do want creativity. I've said this before, I became a teacher because I like to be creative and I like to do things in my way. And at the basic level, we do need our curriculum to be coherent, we need our assessments to be coherent, and we actually need some basic structures to be coherent as well. When we're thinking about universal design for learning, we're also thinking about some consistency. So for students who might struggle with attention, I am one of those students, I need any classroom I walk into to have certain things in place that I know where to look for them. I need to know where the schedule is, I need to know what my assignments are, and I need to be able to kind of have that consistency so everywhere I go, I'm not hunting around and getting more and more distracted. So that's the kind of thing that we want to talk about as we think about the different tiers and also universal design for learning. Next slide, please. So moving forward, we will continue to align support and professional development. I heard from teachers last Friday how much they're hoping for more collaboration time, not just within their grade level at their school sites, but across school sites at grade level and department level, but then also across our entire district vertically, looking at elementary and middle school and high school teachers coming together more to collaborate. Continue to provide ongoing feedback and support by site leadership on universal design for learning and anti-racist strategies in the classroom, and empower educators to differentiate instruction and personalized learning. This is an ongoing iterative process, and it's so important that we're using data to make those decisions. And so one of the things that we're working on right now is figuring out how are we creating a more robust data and assessment system, data that teachers actually can look at and use to inform their instruction and their practice. What we're looking at for the screener for reading difficulties actually is also a pretty good quick and dirty way of looking at maybe some of the things that might not specific what students will need next, but it gives you an idea of where to go and then start to use some different strategies to support students. One of the things too, I think that is so important, and one of the top indicators of high quality instruction is feedback. Students need immediate feedback, and they also need to reflect on their own learning. And so really starting to think about how are we personalizing learning goals for students? How are we ensuring that students are getting the feedback they need immediately to adjust and reflect? And of course, we'll continue to foster engaging and inclusive classrooms. Student voice is so important. And really consistently bringing student voice into the decisions that we're making at this level as well. And that's why we have our wonderful, wonderful student board members. But we also want to hear the voices of all of our students, and specifically thinking about how are we hearing more from students who maybe need adaptive technology to communicate, and really asking questions and giving time and space for our students to answer them. And just continuing along the line of accessing rigorous, high-quality instruction. So again, going back to the GLEAM idea. Next slide, please. I said a lot of this. Really at the core, we want to focus on strengthening our Tier 1 instruction, and we want to be very clear about how we are going to ensure that students who need Tier 2 support have it scheduled in the day in a way where they're not being pulled out of their Tier 1 instruction. If a student needs Tier 2, it means that they need Tier 1, and then they need Tier 2, not just Tier 2. So we want to make sure that our schedules are really leveraging how we can support our students to get double and possibly even triple doses of high quality instruction. And as we've talked about before, we're going to be looking at Tier 1 coherence, specifically next year thinking about our English language arts curriculum and looking at adoption. The current curriculum that we have adopted is not aligned with the science of reading, and for us to be able to improve instruction for our students, we have to also look at what the curriculum is and how are we using that curriculum effectively. So we're going to be starting with our English language arts curriculum, K-5, maybe 6th grade. We've been talking to 6th grade, and there's a lot of interest in looking at that as well. We'll be doing some piloting as well. And then we also want to make sure that our Tier 2 materials are aligned and coherent across our sites. And I think is that the last slide? Mm-hmm. And that is the last slide. Thank you.
Great. Thank you both very much. Does anybody on the board have any questions or comments? Anybody here?
Sure, I'll go.
Go.
First off, thank you for the overview, both of you. And I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, which is, whenever I roll out a big initiative, one of my key things is like, how do we know whether it's working? How do we know we're having the impact we intend? How do we know whether or not we need to course correct our implementation? I know you made an allusion to the need for more data, so I suspect that's part of the answer, but how do we kind of get a handle on that, and under what sort of timeline, just to manage my expectations, should I think about us having a better sense of that?
Well, I would say that so multi-tiered systems of support, again, I think we talk about it as being the umbrella of instruction. It's also the scaffold. So everything we do is on that. So it's hard to measure other than do we have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 in place. We do. We have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 in place. I think then the question is, how well are we doing in terms of meeting the needs of our students at a tier 1 level, at a tier 2 level, and at a tier 3 level? The truth is, if we're doing it really, really well, really a very, very, very few number of students would need tier 3 supports. We want to make sure that we're getting it at that tier 1 level. How are we going to know that we did that? We need a more robust data and assessment system. So we need to progress monitor, and we need to, I hate to use the word track, but that's the best word I have in my mind right now. We need to track how students are doing, not track them in their instruction, but track, we started here, how are they now? What are we going to do next? And teachers have said very clearly that the assessments that we're using right now are not helping them to do that. And so we need to actually look at the assessments that are going to really be not just screeners, but diagnostics. Really looking at, okay, this student, we know that they're having a problem with fluency. We saw that in our screener. Now we need to diagnose what's the exact issue with the fluency. How are we going to encourage and increase student ability to fluently read? And it might go back to, oh, they need more phonemic awareness support, or they may need something, there might be a very quick and easy thing to do. Teachers need that information. So that's really, I think, the answer. And then I think universal design for learning, culturally affirming practices, we are going to know that we are making growth and progress there because our students are going to tell us that. They're going to show us in different ways. One, they'll tell us through their surveys, are they happy at school? Do they feel like they have a sense of belonging? Are their needs being met? They're also going to show us by whether or not they want to attend school. And so I think, there's different ways that we can look at data, attendance data, survey data, other things like that. And again, I go back to really actually listening to kids. I think one of the things that we need to do more of is stop and just listen and hear what our students are saying. And that's a very important data.
Great. Any other questions or comments from the board? And anyone in our audience, either here or virtually? I am not seeing anyone with a raised hand. So thank you very much. And we are now going to move on to our review and action. And we have Eric Polovich here, who is our Director of Technology Services. Thank you.
Good evening, President Hopwood, trustees, Superintendent Stone. So this item is essentially a refresh of our network hardware, which is the backbone of our network and provides the access to our students and staff to integral systems, both on-site, such as our login servers, printers, as well as off-site, like Aries, email, Google Docs, etc., and also the internet at large. Although we do have a couple of newer buildings in Marin and Ocean View, the bulk of our hardware is more than 10 years old and overdue to be replaced and upgraded. In addition, our wireless network was initially installed over 10 years ago as well, when there were far fewer devices connecting to the network. So with this project, the intention is to not only replace and upgrade the older hardware, but also to supplement our existing wireless infrastructure with additional access points, and the goal being to provide better and faster connectivity to our end users. And with this project, we also wanted to utilize E-rate, and for those that aren't familiar, E-rate is basically, it's a federal program that provides discounted internet connectivity and hardware to schools. The reimbursement rate is roughly based on the number of students participating in the National School Lunch Program. And Albany is at the 50% reimbursement. So we published an RFP for all of the required hardware and licenses. We received 4 bids that were actually quite widely separated, and there was a clear winner based on cost alone, which is AMS.net had the winning bid, which is what we are asking to be approved tonight. I guess the last point I want to make is by approving this bid and being able to leverage the E-rate funding, Albany Unified can purchase just under $470,000 worth of equipment at a cost to the district of $235,000, a fairly significant savings considering the amount of hardware we would receive and the benefit that we can provide to our staff and students. So with that, I'll say thank you and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Anybody here on the board have any questions or comments about this?
I will move to approve. Oh, wait, do we need to take public comment?
Anybody in public?
Sorry.
Anyway, you're fine. Anyone in the public? Anybody here or online have any questions? I'm going to just triple check here. I'm not seeing anybody. I think we've all just demonstrated this is not obviously school property, but difficulties actually utilizing and accessing the internet has a detrimental effect. So very timely. Yes. Anybody questions, comments, or are you ready to move?
I move to approve the E-rate bid by AMS.net LLC for district network hardware refresh.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that is passed unanimously. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah. So we are going to, because we advertised the fact that our public hearing was at 7 o'clock, and
Yes.
we're running a little bit early, we are going to just switch things around a little bit. So we will have our superintendent and board member reports, which is item 12 on our agenda. If that's okay with everyone?
All right, good evening, President Hopwood and trustees. This has been a really fun, interesting night with technology. I'm excited. And it leads into my, my title of my report tonight, Strengthening Collective Efficacy and Coherence in Challenging Times. So we know that it is a challenging moment for public education. Recently, there was an executive order that signaled the intent to dismantle the U.S. Department of Education. And I have received numerous questions about this, and so there's understandable concern across our educational communities. I want to note that an executive order is not law, and that only Congress can eliminate a federal department. And while there is definitely action to move things around and switch things around, I do want to note that currently, right now, we are okay. And I also want to just highlight that we are not powerless. One of the things that really, I think, has brought me through the last week and helped me to continue to remain very hopeful is actually themes that came out of my listening campaign so far. Albany Unified remains grounded in these core values: community, equity, inclusion, and opportunity. And our educators, staff, and leaders continue to make beyond a real difference each and every day. And so, again, the message is not only are we not powerless, we are powerful. So some of the major themes that came through that people are both encouraged by but also want to see some changes in are highlighted in this graphic. I think that while we are this very powerful group and we are definitely committed to the same things, there are some things that we can improve. Leadership transparency, representation in our staffing, educator wellness, looking at more improved social emotional learning and programs, more investment in our counseling, more investment in our career pathways. Students were loud and clear that they want more access to AP. And we're looking at how are we grading our students and are we aligned in our theory of action and practices around grading. And again, just going back to this idea of collective efficacy, we are powerful together through collective efficacy, which is a shared belief among educators that together we can positively influence student learning outcomes and we can overcome any challenges that we have. And coherence, that we have the coherent goals, strategies, practices, policies, and so that people are aligned and connected and working together towards a shared vision. We are all the district. I really want to highlight that. I often hear the district this, the schools that. We are actually all the district. The schools are a part of the district. The home office is a part of the district. Every single student, family, and staff member, we are all a part of the district. The way that we are going to move forward and get through this challenging time is to remember that we together are powerful and that we are all working together towards a common vision, which is, I think, and what I've heard loud and clear, we want our students to have the very best experiences so that they can be successful in life. On March 21st, last Friday, when students were off campus doing hopefully wonderful, fun, and exciting things, our staff were here and we were learning together. We held some professional development. We got really great feedback from the professional development that was held in the morning at the elementary and then in the afternoon at the middle school around how to support students who need some extra support with just staying focused in their classroom and doing what they need to do. And then I met with teachers, clerical teams throughout the day, and then our director of maintenance and facilities and maintenance, Scott Chaffee, met with our custodial team. We really focused this day on building collective efficacy and coherence as key levers for how we connect with purpose, how we can be effective together, and how we can improve outcomes for students. And it's very clear that we all continue to remain committed to the things that we've started. I know that when new superintendents come in, there's always the concern that everything is going to be thrown out the door and we're going to start new things. And I want to be very thoughtful and careful about that. Nothing is going to be new and different, even when we use new terms like GLEAM, the LMNOPs of education. We are still focused on the same things. We're focused on multi-tiered systems of support, universal design for learning, culturally affirming practices. We know that we need to improve professional learning experiences, and one of the things I heard loud and clear on Friday is teachers want more time to collaborate, which in my opinion and my belief is professional learning. Coming together and working with your colleagues, you are learning, you are growing. I know I've done the best learning I've ever done with other people who do the same jobs that I do. And we've talked about this before, data-driven, not just planning, but also reflection. Stopping and looking periodically throughout the year, what is our data telling us and what do we need to do better? What are we doing really well? How can we leverage that? And then we continue to remain committed to culture of belonging. So if we remove barriers, support educators, use data, foster belonging, collaborate with our community, then we know that every student will feel safe, seen, and supported. Teachers will be empowered as equity-driven change agents, and we will have systems that become coherent, sustainable, and growth-oriented. If we do these things, then we will see measurable improvements in student achievement, sense of belonging, equitable access to high-quality educational experiences, preparing all students for success in school and beyond. This is what the listening campaign has told me. The slides that I just shared with you came from our community. I'm sharing it with you as possibly what we're going to move forward doing as a district. But it's not new, it's not different, it's what the community shared. So just in closing, I just want to remind everyone that in this time of uncertainty, our shared purpose, deep commitment, and collective power are really more important than ever. We have to stay together. We have to stay focused on what we want, which is the best for our kids. The voice of our community needs to be a part of making our decisions, and it's actually more important now than ever before. And so I just want to take this as an opportunity to thank every AUSD educator, leader, staff member who continues to lead with heart and courage and clarity every day. And I want to thank every AUSD student, family, and community member for the support and the courage. And just one last reminder, we are all the district. We are powerful together. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good reminder. Vice President Mahoney, do you have a board report?
Sure. I'll definitely be less elegant. We're in March 30th, garden meetup, 9 to noon. On April 5th, they've got the Moonlight Auction, which is always one of my favorite events. When it's somewhere special at a brewery near you. How's that? That's my plug. And then Albany Children's Center was lucky to be able to do a walkthrough earlier today, which was great. And on April 7th is their walkabout, which is like their open house from 6 to 7. So I'd also like to invite my fellow board members to that. Always good to be up there. In the last couple of weeks, I've had a couple of interesting conversations across the district. I attended the Citizen Bond Oversight Committee and was super happy to see all the members that had signed up to give both their time and, even more importantly, their thinking to make sure that we continue to spend our bond monies in ways that comply with what the voters intended. I also met with a former board member to get her view on the district, and kind of an interesting sort of theme came about, which is that really the district, and here I think I'm using the term appropriately, really works best when parents and caregivers are involved in constructive ways to support our kids. And so this will be a little bit my plea that I know that everyone here lives super busy lives and we have all sorts of competing priorities. I also know that we are often relieved when we see the same parents signing up to lead the same committees, and we truly appreciate what they do. But if you have not already, I would encourage you to engage I encourage the community to get more involved in supporting our kids. When things seem to be going wrong, it's easy to complain. And I find that when you engage, however, not only can you help our kids directly, but you'll learn a lot more about the circumstances and challenges that are facing the district. And for me, at least, that with understanding comes the capability to ask constructive questions rather than dismissive ones. And so if you can, and you're not already, look for those opportunities to be part of the project that we are all undertaking to help make this a supportive environment for all our kids. I know we've got a couple of committees that we've already put out there that we're looking for some more engagement on with both technology and facilities. So that'll be a little extra plug for those as well. Thank you.
Anyone else with a board report?
I just have a short one. I just wanted to, I think I get all the emails about issues that have been long-standing in the district and we've dealt with before, and so mine won't be as fun as that. But it was brought to the districts, some of our attention, and we're working together on a solution that we have some CO2 levels at one of our sites that might be of concern, and we just wanted to, support the work that's happening and let everybody know that we are aware of this. There are steps already being taken. As facilities go, we made huge improvements. We installed a system that was great when we installed it. It has been very few years, and already we're finding that maybe it's not the perfect system for what our needs actually are. And I think it's a great lesson for us to learn as we are moving forward, that having a vision of kind of what will this be in 10 years and not racing through is a really good idea with our changes and shifts everywhere in this district, the whole district. So I just wanted everybody to know that there is monitoring happening. There's a lot of attention on this, so not to worry. I've been taking a lot of professional developments related to like education myself, and I took this course recently, and it was just such a good reminder. I think often we feel overwhelmed and we look at all the negatives and we think, okay, I have to deal with this and this is bothering me. And this one was specific about classroom management, but I've been putting it into a broader scale. And it said pick like the 5 things that are the most challenging for you. And then pick one of those and narrow it down and come up with 3 concrete details for why it's challenging or causing you stress or seeming problematic. And then what are your steps going to be to kind of remedy those and solve those, and just start with that. And so I feel like often as a board member and as a district leader, it's like, boo, 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 we've got all these things. And so instead, I really appreciate this listening campaign and these priorities that we're putting in place. We've been very reactive, which we've had to be, but I feel like we're on a track now where there's a lot more thought and care, and we're hearing those and being more systematic about it. So I just wanted to sort of name that and appreciate it. And that's all from me.
Don't worry, I'll bring us back to the good stuff. No, just kidding.
Please do. We need more of that.
So the 5th grade t-shirt contest is still open. Please submit your designs to the front office by March 28th. For the 5th grade class t-shirts. We also have the Holy and Eid event on April 5th at Ocean View. I forgot what time, but flyers are out there. Keep an eye out. And then the Ocean View talent show is coming up soon, so if you plan to audition, keep an eye out for that as well. Our PTA elections are currently underway. If you are interested in serving in any of the positions, please email Principal Delgado as soon as possible. We already have a lot of wonderful parents that have stepped up, and we so appreciate that, but we still need more. And then lastly, I just want to wrap up with saying thank you to everyone that came and helped make the ceremony for Dr. Wells so special and wonderful. It was extremely well attended, and everyone, helped in whatever ways they could. We were also very grateful to see Senator Aduguin and Assemblymember Buffy Wicks's staff, who presented Dr. Wells' family and even our library with the certificate of recognition, which is very much appreciated. Just honoring everything that Dr. Wells did. But stay tuned for the official ceremony that will take place in Sacramento. This will just be a resolution recognizing Dr. Wells and all that he's done. We will do our best to get the word out as soon as we can, but things are always up in the air when it's with Sacramento. So with that, thank you.
Mine will be very short and maybe not as exciting. The Board Policy Committee, which is very exciting, by the way, met this week. We reviewed and approved 38 backlogged policies, which is great. We are so far ahead of our schedule that we are actually canceling our next meeting, and we'll reconvene on April 22nd. So that's great news. And to Josh's point about getting involved, the Albany High School Teacher Appreciation is March 28th, and you can help the amazing high school teachers with sandwiches or salads or money. So if you can, please support them. Thank you.
And I have a very, very short report, which is just that the Cornell School Coyote Fun Fitness Week is starts on the 7th of April, runs Monday to Friday that week, 7th to 11th, and kicks off on the Sunday afternoon between 1:30 and 3:30. And that is everything from me. Thank you. So we are now going to move on. Can we move on to our public hearing? Do you think it's time? Or we could always do our future agenda items if we want another couple of minutes of... Yeah, we're going to do that. So we're going to go to item 13 now, which is future agenda items. Does anyone here have something they would like? Go ahead.
last year we kind of talked about these transition steps that were happening. I'm looking at you, Ayush, because it came out of the student committees. Like basically how we are supporting our students from 5th grade into the middle school and then the middle school into the high school. I think it'd be great if we could just circle back to that as we're coming to the end of a school year and like thinking about what we're going to do going into next year. And that's all.
Can I actually add to that one? Sorry. Last year, before we put the committees on pause, the SPED committee, it has come up multiple times that we would love to see that specifically for our special education students as well, particularly because we're talking about a whole new like physical environment, you know, relearning just all of your surroundings. And so we would really appreciate that as well. Thank you.
Okay, I lied. There's one more thing. Because you made me think about it. I think we really need to have a conversation about fundraising committee and where we want to stand on all of that.
I'll give you a moment to get your notes done. Great. In advance of the June adoption of the budget, I'd love to do a budget study session with the group. And I know I'm getting some darts from certain people, but it's all going to be good.
I feel like there's a lot that's changed, and it was on pause because, you know, there was nothing positive, and now we haven't had a CBO in quite a while. So I think it'd be really helpful for us to put our heads together. I do wonder if we want to look at just like replacing a meeting with that or adding it on to a meeting or having it in addition. I don't know, but we've been talking about all those things. So
We'll have a look at that. So just to be clear, we're looking at a workshop prior to the budget adoption in June. We're looking at the transitions from elementary to middle school and middle school to high school, and including our special education.
Also,
Oh, and yeah, go ahead, Ayush.
add something.
Yes, please.
So the Student Advocacy Committee did site visits at the elementary school and then surveys to the middle and high school. And we're planning on doing like 2 presentations on 2 different days. So maybe like one on, like, I think we'd probably have our first one ready by the 25th meeting, if that's possible to like fit that in there.
Okay, and that's so April the 25th, right? Yeah, perfect. Okay, thank you. Yeah, and also the fundraising, as you said, which is to do with perhaps amalgamating. Okay, perfect. Any other suggestions for future agenda items? No. Thank you. We can now move on, or rather move back, to our sunshine. I think we're going to do hers first, and then we go. Yeah. So I'm going to introduce it. So what we'll do is we're introducing it, and then our Chief Human Resources Officer is going to describe it, and then I will open the hearing once we've done that. So let me just sorry, I'm just getting my paper back to where we were. Here we go. So this is going to be a public hearing imminently regarding the sunshine negotiation proposal from the California School Employees Association to Albany Unified School District, 25 to 28 collective bargaining agreement.
Yes, and this actually, the next 2 items are public hearings to Sunshine, where the parties, one CSEA to us and then us to them. And the purpose of this is prior to contract or collective bargaining agreement negotiations, the parties have to notify the other party about what articles they intend to open and just sort of a little bit about what maybe they want to discuss at the table. So we have that obligation to each other, but then this public hearing is just so that the public has an opportunity to comment should they wish.
Thank you. So I am now opening the public hearing. Been looking forward to doing the gavel thing. I can't wait. Maybe we'll do it more. So does anybody here in our audience or online have any comment about this sunshine negotiation proposal? We have 2 hearings here. The first one is CSEA 2 AUSD, and the second one will be way around. Nobody on the board has any.
Can you go,
Scroll down.
scroll down, up, yeah. Actually, yeah.
To the proposal.
Am I allowed to ask a question about the document?
Sure.
There's one on there about safety that I read last night,
Mm-hmm.
and I just wanted to better understand. New article regarding safety. Can you,
So this is the proposal from CSEA to the district, and they are letting us know that they will be proposing adding a new article, so it doesn't exist just yet. So we don't know exactly what the proposal will be.
Thanks. Any other comments from the public or from the board regarding this sunshine proposal? I'm not seeing any, so we are going to close this public hearing. And we're going to move on in the same way to 11B, which is the hearing regarding the sunshine negotiation proposal from AUSD to CSEA. Again,
And it's the same information, it's just our proposal to CSEA indicating the articles that we intend to open. And I was distracted with the sirens. I failed to mention that our 3-year collective bargaining agreement is expiring in June, and so what we will be bargaining is what's called like a successor. It's the full contract, which is why you see so many items listed.
and before we open the public hearing, are there any questions or comments from the board? No, so opening the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from members of the public, either here or online? And if there are online, please raise your hand. And I am seeing none, so we can hereby close the public hearing. Thank you. It was short and sweet. Okay, so we have now reached the end of our agenda. So we are going to adjourn this closed session meeting, this open session meeting at 7:06, and we are adjourning to closed session. So we are adjourning to closed session under the authority of the Brown Act, and we are going to be discussing potential litigation and personnel matters, superintendent evaluation. Does anybody in public have, or members of the public have any comments about our closed session? Either here or remotely, and I am not seeing anyone. Great, so we are now going to adjourn to closed session, and we will be reconvening to open session to report back. Thank you.